Donald Trump had yet another meltdown, releasing off-the-rails messages to Truth Social, even suggesting New York Attorney General Letitia James and Judge Aurthor Engoron should be arrested. Well, Trump is at it again. We have discussed and followed extensively his erratic and desperate behavior amid his 4 indictments, fraud trial, and so many different things. And, you know, people process stress differently. Some people process it by going on walks. Some people do it by spending time with loved ones. Some people do it by just spending time stressing that their stress is getting in the way of getting done the things they're stressed about. If that makes sense. That's me. Vicious cycle. And some people post nonstop on their failing social media site. And Trump's latest escalation is showing his support for the idea of arresting Letitia James and Judge Aurthor Engoron. We, by the way, have so much to look at in this segment. We'll look at a Trump supporter who wants to arrest a different one of Trump's enemies, talk about the repercussions of Trump's attacks, and so much more. So stick around for all of it. Okay, let me give you a run through of the first couple of messages building to the arrest one, and I'll try to go quickly so you're not subjected to this for too long. Here we go. Racist Attorney General Letitia James is smirking all day long from her seat at court as New York continues to set records in murder and other violent crimes. That's not true, and businesses flee to other states. This is a law that's rather bizarre. Bizarre is spelled incorrectly. This is a law that doesn't require any victims. There are none except me. It doesn't require anyone to lose money. The banks didn't complain here. They made money. You have a Trump-hating Attorney General who's seeking hundreds of millions of dollars in damages when not a single penny was lost by these banks, and that's part of this unconstitutional law. You could see from the reaction of Attorney General James every morning from that seat that she's enjoying this, enjoying it a bit too much. Law professor Jonathan Turley, this law has never been used for this before. It's both unconstitutional and very unfair. No business will come to New York, only continue to leave. The whole case is rigged from DC. It is election interference. Our country is broken and corrupt. Fact check on that one is false. And then the next message, I am the victim of a corrupt legal system that's being used by those surrounding crooked Joe Biden with his full knowledge and consent. That's not true. To hurt, demean, and damage his political opponent. Me, a terrible precedent being set, but so far, despite the vulgarity and viciousness of it all, has driven my poll numbers to record numbers. You see, the American people are much smarter than Crooked Joe. They see what's going on with a corrupt and racist New York State Attorney General and a Trump-hating puppet judge willing to do her dirty work, even as it takes him and his reputation to new lows. They fully understand the Obama-appointed radical left DC federal judge who refused to recuse, fully gagged me, and set a trial date the day before Super Tuesday, the biggest and most powerful day in the primaries. They get the fact that Attorney General Garland and his boss Lisa Monaco sent their top DOJ lawyer to Manhattan to run the district attorney's case on me and much more, but we will win. And that does bring us to the post about James and Engoron being arrested. Trump reposted another user's Truth Social post that read, "My fantasy. I would like to see Letitia James and Judge Engoron placed under citizen's arrest for blatant election interference and harassment." Now, even though we talk about this a lot, sometimes I'm still re-struck by just how much Trump's followers believe him to be the ultimate victim. They really believe that across all these cases, the dozens of jurors who sat on grand juries to approve these indictments, just regular citizens, or the numerous judges, the multiple prosecutors, all the witnesses, everyone is in some conspiracy to take Trump down. You could believe that, or you could believe a far more likely scenario. Maybe Trump just did some things that violated the law. And in a system where the law is supposed to be applied to everyone, he should be held accountable for that. It's really that simple. Now, by the way, this isn't the first time that a Trump supporter has called for the arrest of those holding Trump accountable. Here's a clip we looked at previously of a guy after Trump's Fulton County indictment saying he's going to take action, or he has taken action, to arrest Fani Willis.
Okay, so I'm here with Brad Barnes, who just filed an arrest for the Fulton County DA. Now, what are you alleging charges on her for?
So there are 4 charges, 2 under the U.S. Code, 2 under the Georgia Code. So the 2 under the Georgia Code are violation of oath by a public officer, which is 1610-1, and unprofessional conduct by public officers and employees, which is 4511-4. And then the 2 under the U.S. Code are under 18 U.S.C. 241 and 242, and those are conspiracy against rights and deprivation of rights under color of law.
So we'll see how Brad Barnes' effort to arrest Fani Willis goes. And by the way, we'll get back to another Trump rant in just a moment, but that's obviously ridiculous and also sad if you give it some thought. The fact that so many people have been convinced to believe one guy over all the evidence and just follow him to the ends of the earth. In the Fulton County case, as that clip is relevant to, Trump's being prosecuted for trying to prevent the peaceful transfer of power and just stay in the White House despite losing. We talked about in a past video his former lawyer, Jenna Ellis, saying that she was told by one of Trump's advisors in December of 2020 that Trump fully intended on just holding on to power by whatever means necessary, despite the election results. Now, luckily, he did fail, but he has to be held accountable for those actions so something like that doesn't happen again in the future. He needs to be held accountable for assembling the fraudulent slate of electors to unlawfully assert as the duly elected electors of states Trump lost, or for pressuring Vice President Mike Pence at the time to block the lawful certification of the election, or for allies of Trump's breaching voting machines in Coffee County, or for Trump pressuring local officials to fraudulently find votes to make Trump win a state that he lost. And it goes on. We don't want to have to worry about future presidents doing those sorts of things, going outside the law to hold on to power. And step one in preventing that is holding Trump accountable. The unfortunate part is, though, everything I just outlined there is not something so many in America take seriously because they're fully bought into Trump's lies. Trump's being prosecuted for election interference, but his followers think it's Fani Willis who's guilty of the election interference. Or in the fraud case with Attorney General James, Trump's being held accountable for fraud, but Trump's being cheered on when he says that it's the court, it's Letitia James, Judge Engoron, who's guilty of the fraud against him. By the way, his rants continue. Deranged Jack Smith, Andrew Weissman, Lisa Monaco, the team of losers and misfits from Crew, and all the rest of the radical left zealots and thugs who have been working illegally for years to take me down will end up, because of their suffering from a horrible disease, Trump derangement syndrome, TDS, in a mental institution by the time my next term as president is successfully completed. Make America great again. So he's threatening to put people in jail at rallies, and now he's saying they're going to end up in a mental institution as well. Trump is the deranged and unwell one, clearly. Now, these ruthless and nonstop attacks against those he perceives as enemies, they have real consequences. His words have the potential to cause real damage, and he's escalating it each day. Today, wanting Letitia James and Aurthor Engoron to be arrested. A few weeks ago, posting an article on True Social that obtained Letitia James's home address. He doxed her. And his nonstop spewing of this rhetoric is increasing the odds that one of his followers tries to act on the vitriol. And already we've seen examples of this that we've gone through in the past. A Trump supporter named Abigail Jo Schrei was arrested for threatening to kill the judge overseeing Trump's election interference case. Or Craig Robertson, another Trump supporter who threatened a bunch of Trump's political enemies and explained in detail how he was going to assassinate Joe Biden. FBI agents carried out a raid at his home. He drew his gun and was shot dead. He believed in Trump's lies, and now he's dead because of it. Or Ricky Schieffer attacked an FBI office. He believed the FBI was targeting Trump, as Trump says, and he had an AR-15 style rifle, a handgun, also ended up being killed. Right now, Trump just keeps getting his own followers hurt. They buy into his lies, and then their actions lead to devastating consequences for them. So Trump clearly has no regard for the people he's attacking and their well-being, but also not even his own followers. And as another reminder of this danger, here's CBS News breaking down likely another outcome of the nonstop demonization of our election workers and election process.
Breaking news in a series of potentially deadly and targeted attacks on election workers across the country. The FBI and investigators from the U.S. Postal Service are looking into more than a dozen letters, some containing fentanyl, that were sent to election offices in at least 5 states. Now, workers in some of those offices were processing ballots from Tuesday's election, and in some cases, the buildings were evacuated, interrupting the counting of votes. Since 2020, there's been a rise in threats, harassment, and intimidation of election officials.
Obviously, really frightening, and it's still being investigated, but hard to imagine it isn't connected to the same reason: general threats against election workers have increased since 2020. So many lies are being perpetuated about the job they do. And we're talking about people who are just engaging in the civil process, giving their time to their community to allow for our democracy to function. And because of conspiracy theories, it's becoming increasingly unsafe for them to do so. And on that note, I want to play another clip for you, this time a part of Ruby Freeman's, we've looked at this before, testimony in front of the January 6th Select Committee. Ruby Freeman was, of course, an election worker in Georgia and became one of the characters in Trump's and Giuliani's and others' conspiracy theories about the election. There was a video of her handing something to her daughter, who was also an election worker, and right-wingers went wild saying it's a USB drive, it's a part of the election stealing operation. In reality, it was a piece of candy. They weren't participating in fraud, but despite that, their lives were turned upside down and they were targeted by powerful people like Trump. Here's this moment.
I've lost my name and I've lost my reputation. I've lost my sense of security, all because a group of people, starting with number 45 and his ally, Rudy Giuliani, decided to scapegoat me and my daughter, Shay, to push their own lies about how the presidential election was stolen.
We're just going to play the tape.
There is nowhere I feel safe. Nowhere. Do you know how it feels to have the President of the United States to target you? The President of the United States is supposed to represent every American, not to target one, but he targeted me.
Now, she, of course, sued Rudy Giuliani for defamation and won, and he had to admit in court filings that the things he said weren't accurate about her and Shay Moss, her daughter. So you would think, wouldn't those calling for the arrest of Letitia James, Aurthor Engoron, Fonnie Willis, all of Trump's enemies, they're all part of this big conspiracy to take Trump down, wouldn't you expect them to think twice this next time around with this next round of conspiracy theories? Now that Fox News had to pay a bunch of money for lying about the election and their settlement with Dominion, I'll say again, if there was evidence of the claims they were making, they could have gotten out of paying that big settlement by finding the evidence. But they couldn't because it doesn't exist, so they had to pay up. Or Giuliani having to pay Ruby Freeman for his lies about her, or any of these other cases we've gone over. Wouldn't you expect the followers of these individuals to, because of that, second guess the leaders who so obviously have been caught in lies? Well, no, is the answer to that question. Here's a clip we've gone over in the past of a Trump supporter I talked to saying, nope, Ruby Freeman, she did the fraud and she's been arrested for it.
For example, Trump's attempts to overturn the election, wrong. So to protest against that, I would say would be correct, right?
Well, you're saying that he tried to overturn an election. What election are you trying to say you overturned? 2020? Yeah. So you haven't heard anything about election fraud that's happening at all?
Well, I looked to all the recounts, investigations, audits, and court cases.
Have you watched the Georgia election? Did you see where they pulled the ballots out from under the cabinet?
And they realized that was debunked.
They scanned them and scanned them and rescanned them and rescanned them. You know that lady got arrested, right?
Don't you think if that actually happened? I know a lot of people are suing for defamation because of lies about people like that. No.
Yeah, she definitely got arrested.
Ruby Freeman?
Ruby, yeah, she definitely got arrested.
It turned out that even Giuliani acknowledged he was lying. He lost a defamation case, and in that case, he had to concede that he was not correct about those statements about Ruby Freeman.
Oh, no, she's definitely been arrested.
She hasn't, I promise.
She has.
So one way to get out of ever having to question yourself or the leaders of your movement when the facts contradict their narrative is just to isolate yourself in an information bubble so much that you'll never hear when that happens. That guy is still going off of just brutally inaccurate information about Ruby Freeman. And I'm sure hundreds of other stories as well, which then allows him to believe Trump and Giuliani and all these different people are trustworthy. And this is what's so difficult when it comes to unwinding the misinformation people are bought into, because it's built on a big stack of distortions and propaganda. So you try to debunk one, but that connects to this other thing, which connects to this thing, which connects to where they get their information from. Very difficult process, possible, but difficult. So I guess my point in this segment is Trump's lies are dangerous, but he just keeps spewing them every day. Before you go, don't forget to become a member at lukebeasleyshow.com/membership. There's a link in the description to that link that gets you access to the daily bonus show Monday through Friday, exclusively for our members. Plus, follow me on Threads at Luke Beasley Official, Instagram at Luke Beasley Official, and X at Luke P. Beasley. And sign up for the Beasley Brief, a daily morning newsletter that summarizes the previous day's events by going to lukebeasleyshow.com/brief. And I'll talk to you all next time.